Okay, Joe. So thank you for taking time to talk with me today about your journey with us doing neurofeedback and neurotherapy training at Bhakti Brain Health Clinic. Appreciate you spending time
My
here.
pleasure.
Yep. So maybe what we can do is have you start with just sharing about sort of what got you to seek our services out.
So, like, the major thing was my road rage, blow-ups or meltdowns. But what led to that was in 2019, I broke my wrist. I had a second opinion on my wrist, and I got a surgery, and it was not what I expected. And kind of, I feel like I'm in a fight or flight. I understand, I guess, and at the time, I didn't really realize like what was going on with that. But then after 2020, uh, my meltdowns and things like that started getting worse and worse. Um, and it got to the point where it's like sitting in traffic 2 hours or whatever, twice a day, once on the way to work, once on the way home. And it would sometimes be over 2 hours one way. It's really stuck in fight or flight, to the point where it's like literally just doing anything caused me a meltdown, when I would blow up. And then I would be able to recover for days sometimes from my meltdowns. But it was to the point where it's like my anger was affecting my marriage. It was affecting me for hours after I'd get off of work. Just be ruminating in my head about how I acted and about how angry I get over nothing. And that's kind of where it was. It got to the point where I was ruminating so bad that I remember the last day that I went to work in August. I was trying as hard as I could to not have any blowups today. Just no blowups today. It doesn't matter what happens, no blowups today. And I got almost nothing done that day. And after that, I just said, I can't go to work if I can't do my job without having explosions and whatnot. I'm gonna end up, you end up losing business for your company or something worse, or hurting somebody, So, and not on purpose. Like I'm not a violent person. And I've been in therapy for, for a year before that at least. That's helpful, but it wasn't stopping me from having like the ruminating thoughts, the things that I couldn't stop in my head, that were really just like crushing me down to the point where it's just like I can literally couldn't do anything like at all. So
Yeah, we hear that from a lot of our clients, that idea that like I'm doing things to try and work with this, but it doesn't seem to be doing the trick, right? And I think about that with therapy. Like in therapy, you like with emotion regulation, you learn skills, right? But if the brain is dysregulated in terms of its functioning, those skills just can't be applied. The brain cannot complete the task that you are wanting it
yes.
to, right?
And that is also a thing was really, really frustrating to me because so it's like I know what coping skills are, and I know what abnormal and inappropriate behavior. I know what that is too. So when it's like you try to apply coping skills that you know should work but don't work, it's very frustrating, and then you really feel like, am I broken? So, but thing about that is like you're never broken. Like I'm never broken. I was never broken. I just misunderstood what was going on. You
Yeah.
know. So
Well, and I think that you saw when we did your brain mapping, the QEEG, you saw that this wasn't because you were broken, because you weren't trying hard enough, or whatever. It was because literally the brain was functioning in a way that was kind of working against you, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and with that, like I remember when Katie and I came in for that. Excuse me. How relieving it was to see, like, hey, the things that you just like when you just described to me what was on my brain mapping, you literally described to me the last year of my life. Like, oh yeah, that's why this is happening. That's why this is happening. And so like yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what what changes started to occur as you started with the neurostimulation and then moved on to neurofeedback.
So with the neurostimulation, so when I first started, so days that she would be off of work and could drive me to my appointment. She would drive me to my appointment because the road rage is like one of the major things that really like set me off and made it just to made me behaviorally a way that would make me ruminate more and just made everything worse. And even when she was driving, even when she was driving, it'd be like, okay, I have to just not look at the road because it would make me upset, and then I would be upset that I'm upset, and it seems silly, but after even just the before I even started neurofeedback, I noticed that when I was on my way here on the days that I did drive, I would come and I'd be halfway here, and all of a sudden it'd be like I'd start to feel calmer, and then on my way home, I would have a blow up, like at all on my way home. It'd be like it's crazy to me. I didn't really notice until I don't know, at least a month in or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. I didn't really notice until Katie said something to me like, "Hey, like I noticed that you called me on the way home and you didn't say get that or whatever." So yeah,
That's great. Yeah. So we were focusing on regulating, kind of getting your parasympathetic, that the calming part of your nervous system kind of back up online a bit. And
yes,
what you're describing is that started to happen, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I would say probably um after the neurofeedback started, I feel like the ruminating started to decrease. I mean, I can't put it into months or weeks of how far in I was when all of a sudden I noticed, like, hey, like, I'm not ruminating anymore like I was before. And that's huge for me because when you're stuck in your own head, it's a terrible thing to be stuck in your own head in negativity. So I guess when I look at the whole thing and think about like with my anger and with like the stuff that I was going through, I feel like it's almost like I was locked in a room where I could see through the window. I can see through the window and I can see logic out there, like saying, hey, you can't control that. And I can see the coping skill out there, like, hey, you can do this and that. But the harder that I would try to get out the door, the more the door would just be blocked. And I feel like with this, like I still needed to open the door myself, but I feel like this unlocked it so that I could get out there
Yeah.
and be with the logic and be with with just the positivity that's
And the
on the other
coping.
side, the coping skills, the things that I couldn't that for some reason I just couldn't reach it before because I was locked in this circle. What's the best way that I could describe it? And it's just, when people say like, oh, just don't try to control the things you can't control. And it's like, I'm not trying to control the things I can't control. I can see that, and now I feel like I can actually get a grasp on those things.
Yeah. And what you're describing is a beautiful way to describe that sense of like feeling stuck.
That's
It
very,
reminds me of kind of when you're in one of those dreams where you can't move even
oh,
though you're
yes.
trying to.
Funny that you say that because I don't like for the longest time I don't remember any of my dreams, and it's probably because I smoked weed for so long. And but the dreams that I do remember would always be I'm trying to run, and I don't know if I'm running from something or thing or anything. Just maybe I'm out for a jog. I don't know really what I was dreaming about, but that's the one of the most vivid things in my dreams that I've had was that.
That familiar kind of feeling that you
Yes,
had with that
absolutely.
kind of being stuck.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, with the other things that have changed, uh, so like when ruminating and all these different things, it really prevented me from applying a lot of coping skills in my life. And I was using weed. I've smoked weed almost every day since I was 15 years old. And tomorrow will be 3 weeks, cold turkey, no problem. I've had like my body didn't like it at first. My body is just like, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
But my mind has never been more solid and like, hey, yeah. So
Do you feel like the using weed was like a coping mechanism, like a way to manage?
it became that.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. It stopped being something that I did for entertainment or fun or relaxation. And then after my surgery, just had a downward spiral to the point where it was like I'm smoking 6, 7, 8 times a day, if not just like constantly smoking all day. And that also became a wedge in my marriage too, because I know that my wife did not like that at all.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like what you're saying is that as you started, your brain started to regulate whilst we were doing the neurofeedback, you aren't feeling the need for the weed anymore.
No, and actually what happened is that I call them a blow up when I blow up, but then it's a meltdown when I can't find a coping skill or when I'm seeking a coping skill and it doesn't work. And when my coping skill was weed, it was reduced down to only weed. And it was like, uh, I would have this blow up where I'm getting angry and he'd be like, okay, I go out, smoke a couple hits of weed and I'll be fine. But if I drop my lighter or I can't find my weed or I can't find my pipe or something, now it goes from being a blow up to a complete meltdown where I am flipping the couch over looking for a lighter. And I mean, that's completely unreasonable behavior for anybody. I don't care what you're doing, like flipping furniture over to look for a lighter. It's just not. At least, I mean, I understand. Flip it over because you're cleaning it. Sure, that's fine. But that's not what I was doing. And I had this. It was literally that was the only thing that was causing me meltdowns anymore. Is that I'm seeking a coping skill that I don't need anymore. I feel like is what happened, and I feel like it's because of this. Like 25 years, and I've never felt better. Like I've tried to like reduce the amount I smoke before, have my rigid schedule, which I liked, but I also enjoyed when I would smoke weed, and now I feel like I don't ever want to do that again. So I want my brain to work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Will you talk a little bit about the audiovisual entrainment, the AVE device, because that's something that you were using at home in addition to doing the in-clinic therapy.
And I feel like the hard thing about the AVE is that I have ADHD too, so it's really hard for me to like do stuff sometimes. Like I'm a bit of a commitment phobe because of that. When I was using the AVE 2 or 3 times a day, usually be every other day or every day sometimes. Definitely, I notice huge my increase in my ability to deal with things like traffic or whatnot. And then also just the ruminating stuff, right? Sometimes I'll be sitting at home and someone irritate me, and rather than um smoke weed, I would grab my AVE, be like, okay, I'm gonna try this instead. And it doesn't give you the euphoria or whatever that we will give you, but it was definitely a coping skill that I probably should have used more throughout my treatment. But I will continue to use it because it is absolutely was helpful as a coping skill, especially over like a chemical, something like that. Then also feel like when I would use my AVE regularly, I feel like I also did better on my neurofeedback. I also noticed that when I stopped smoking the weed, my last 2 treatments for my neurofeedback were the highest scores that I've had, and I feel like that's also very rewarding in itself. So, but the AVE definitely has a good effect with the mood boosting, like the negative, stopping the negative thoughts and replacing it with positive thoughts. I've always been, I shouldn't say always, but since this surgery thing happened, I noticed that my thoughts would be very negative, and I'd have to battle my thoughts back over with positive thoughts because I've always been like a positive person. Like if you asked like my cousin or like people who are really close to me and best friends, whatever, they'd say, "Oh, Joe, you're just a jolly guy. I can't imagine you being angry." And it's like, yeah, well, you never saw me mad. And when all of a sudden all of my thoughts are constantly negative and I'm constantly telling myself like, hey, that's not true, what where are these thoughts coming from? And throwing on the AVE, it really does. It really stops the negative thoughts and kind of calms the chatter a little bit. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
that,
it sounds like it's what you're saying is it's great in the moment for helping regulate whatever might be going on, right? Or helping you just with calm focus. And that it also seems to augment what you were doing when you were doing neurofeedback. Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
As I listen to your story and think about it, I think it beautifully demonstrates that idea that sometimes, like most of us have like if you map our brains where you're going to find some dysregulation in there and we're living life, we're doing the things we need to do, that kind of thing, right? Which was very much, I think, what was going on for you. And then you had a circumstance occur, and for you, it was the surgery and the all of the frustration and sense of lack of control around something
Yes.
that just kind of took you over, right?
Yeah.
And then took like that dysregulation in the brain really started to show because you had this added stress and the brain just couldn't do what it needed to do with it, right?
I feel like a part of that too is that uh I didn't realize that at first that this was the triggering event.
Yep.
You know, like when you think about like, well, it's like you're getting mad at things you can't control, and it's like, well, why am I so angry about something that a year ago I wasn't angry about? You know, like I couldn't control traffic in 2019. You know, why does it matter that I can't control traffic in 2021? And like, why is it so much worse now than it was before? And I know a lot of people were like, oh, well, because COVID traffic wasn't that bad. And it's like, well, just because COVID traffic wasn't that bad doesn't mean that people rush hour, people don't cut each other off or don't let people over or people are rude to each other. People are, I call it windshield warriors, you know, it's like people with, key, you know, they say keyboard warriors where everybody will just say whatever they want on the internet. Same thing in the car, you know, you're protected by the shield and people just, for some reason, I got jerks and I just, even, and it's so funny because even with my road rage, right, I'm a guy that's sitting there just like, let them in, just let the person in. Where are they supposed to go into the wall? You know, and then I'm getting mad because not because somebody's cutting somebody off, but because it's like I'm trying to let in three people. I just like, come over here, get in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
It's silly. It's silly, but again, it's silly to be angry about things that you can't control. And when you recognize that and then you ruminate on it and it goes in a circle and then you're beating yourself up constantly. Yeah, it does end up feeling like you're broken in your head. But again, like when we came in here and you just described to me like, okay, well, this part of your brain isn't communicating this part properly. So I'm assuming that you're having this happen. And it's like, oh, well, thank you so much. Like it was just the hugest relief. Even just that was a huge relief. Didn't change how I
Yeah.
felt right away. But back to the whole driving thing, Katie would be driving me here. I drove here today at 2 o'clock in the
Mhm.
afternoon. I scheduled my appointment for today at 3 o'clock, and I have to drive back in rush hour traffic, and I'm not worried about it at all.
Excellent.
Like, and I know road rage isn't something that's going to go away from me entirely, but my ability to cope with it is, well, I feel like I'm 100% better than I was, which is still not very great. But as far as like, I mean, having road rage isn't a pleasant thing. But again, anger is something that I feel like is a very misunderstood emotion. And I feel like when used properly, anger is a great thing, you know, when used properly. But
Yeah.
very rarely do people use their anger properly. And I mean, I know I don't.
Before we started recording earlier today was you had talked about how for a long time, if both you and Katie, your wife, were in the car, you couldn't drive.
Yes, I would.
What
I would want her to run
and why was that?
because of the ruminating stuff and the
Mhm.
road rage stuff
Okay.
and whatever. And
And
yesterday, her and I went out and we did a whole bunch of stuff all day yesterday. We were out driving around and I drove the entire time until we took Charlie, my golden doodle, we took her to give her a bath at this place they have dog wash bays. Um, and I let her drive home from there. But I said because I want to sit in the back with Charlie because yeah, she gets traumatized by the hair dryer thing. So I want to sit in the back with her. But otherwise,
all went well.
yes, it
Yeah.
all went well. And you know, I still do be like, oh, look at that, whatever. I still notice the stuff, right? But I cope with it. It's not like I ruminate. So
And I
yeah.
think that's the big piece for you was the rumination was you described that like as the real problem, right? That
Yes.
that's what would happen is you would just fall into that and that's what stole your life, right?
They
I
did,
mean,
yeah.
any of us can relate to having road rage. And so you're right, it's not going to go away. We get irritated by other human beings, right? And our fuses can be a little short and all of that. But what I hear you saying is that you feel very confident now that when those times happen, they're not going to have you reacting in the same way necessarily in the moment, nor for the next 4 hours after or 2 days later.
Yes, and that was really the most defeating part is that, like, I don't know, like people say they want balance in their life, and I understand like everyone wants balance in their life, right? But I would rather not have a balance of happy and angry. I would rather be way more weighted on happy and less angry, right? But the whole thing is that they're both emotions and they're both fleeting. So
Yeah.
let the anger be more fleeting than the happiness. And it's a lot of times it's not.
Yep.
I shouldn't even say a lot of times. I don't know why, and actually I do know why. It's because my brain was stuck in this fight or flight, which makes, as if you think about humans as a evolved creature, our brain, it's gonna remember scary, mean, bad things I need to be afraid of, because then you can avoid those things.
Yes.
But when you can't avoid those things and then you get stuck in this fight or flight, it's really hard to be happy afterwards with the way that you acted in a situation that civilized society. It's like there was no lion chasing me down
Yeah.
on the freeway. It was just
Yep.
me being upset about something that I don't have control over.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I like that whole, I can see to the window the logic of why would you be mad at that? Why would you be mad at that? And it's like I'm banging on the door, like, why am I mad?
Yeah.
And I really do feel like this was the thing that I still have to open the door to be like, hey,
Yep.
get out there.
But you can't.
But I can open the door. I'm not banging on it
Yeah.
anymore. It's open for me.
That's great.